you for clicking on this Fun with Pete and Sherry video. I'm your host, Mr. Julian. This is your co-host, Tipsy. And today I'm going to be reviewing Speyburn, Bradan, Orach, Highland Single Malt Scotch Whiskey, although also sometimes called a Speyside. Speyburn is a Speyside distillery. Speyside is a subcategory of the Highland. Not everyone knows that. I am reviewing this because I was going back over some of my reviews from last summer when I was doing bargain whiskies, and I realized that I'd made one promise I hadn't kept yet, and that was to review a single malt Scotch that I bought for less than $20. Such is the case with this one, Speyburn Bradan Orach, which is on sale at the ABC store near here for $16.99. Now, we know that's a pretty extraordinary price for a single malt Scotch. Heck, it's not a bad price for a blended Scotch. You can spend less on a Scotch. Now, you could get a Clan MacGregor of about this size for about $10, but don't. Is a good strategy there. So what can I tell you about Speyburn Bradan Orach? Well, there's also a Speyburn 10 years old that appears sometimes, and this one is no age statement. How about that? Interesting color, completely yellow, those are the only two Speyburn whiskies that I know I've had, although I very much suspect I've had a third. We also get Lismore single malt Scotch available here in Virginia sometimes. Now, Lismore, though it is packaged exactly the same as any other single malt Scotch, is not actually a distillery. And here I point the finger at the Scotch Whisky Association and say, you're making a big mistake by letting a company that's not a distillery call itself a single malt Scotch. Single malt obviously means it's made at a single distillery. There is an understanding by the public, whether you acknowledge it or not, that the name on the bottle is the name of that distillery, and it is these independent guys calling them single malt Scotch would be fine if they put the name on the bottle of the distillery that they bought the Scotch from, which they don't. Now, so because we don't even know that Lismore is from the same distillery all the time, this is hard to say. If you pick up a bottle yourself, it may not be the same thing I had, but the Lismore I have had tastes very, very, very similar to Speyburn, and I note that they come in at around the same price point as well, which leads me to believe that Lismore is Speyburn. If anyone out there can confirm that, or tell me that something else is true, I'd be interested to hear it. All right, let's see what happens when we drink some of this. Now, the nose is strangely complex. I know, but it is. Ooh, a lot of things here. First, sort of, so you're a few inches above, there's this sort of smell of yeasty bread dough. Then as you get in closer, there's a sort of a tropical fruit type smell, similar to Glenlivet or Old Pulteney, but with its own distinct character as well. Pineapple is rather well to the fore. Perhaps even a very slight nuttiness behind that. It's a sweet nose, not incredibly deep, but not bad. Let's go with the final test now. Some of those, some of the promise of the nose is fulfilled here. Some of it is not. There is the tropical fruit is really the only thing that comes through in the taste. I think it's a very much a sort of a single. Careful, cat, stop it. It's a sort of a more simple taste than is on the nose. Just that one, though it really isn't terrible. It's been my experience that the first sips and the smaller sips are the better sips. As you get further into the Bradan Orach, which means golden salmon, by the way, it starts to develop a little bit of a cloying taste. Very obviously young whiskey. That's more than 6 years. And it has a little bit of a chemically aftertaste. And this isn't necessarily the most damning thing in the world. But nor is it fantastic. You know, if the best you can say of a thing is it's not as bad as you think it might be, then perhaps it's not all that good. And yet, it is very much true that this Speyburn-Bradan Orach is in fact not as bad as you would probably imagine it to be. I don't know, it sort of creates its own category of whiskey, and for $17, it's probably worth seeing what $17 single malt Scotch tastes like. And this is the problem, right around the point where where a good single malt Scotch starts to sort of disappear. You just sort of don't even realize you're drinking it. This one starts to put up a little bit of resistance. I'm going to give Speyburn-Bradan Orach a 5 out of 10. It could certainly be worse. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you. Anybody want to finish this for me?